There we go.
Good evening. They're just about there. Good evening and welcome back to the Tottenham Hour podcast, the number one weekly Tottenham podcast brought to you by WeAreTottenhamTV. And we have a cracking panel tonight to go through what was far from a cracking week for Tottenham following defeats in the Premier League to Southampton and Wolves. In the place of the injured David Harris, we've got his partner in crime from Flat Cap Euro Talk. It is Jack Kanicki. Jack, how are you, my friend? Jack's muted, but I'm sure he's doing well anyway. No, still can't get you, Jack. We'll jump to the other lads if you want to try and sort that out. And again, always a weird one introducing you on your own channel. But Ben, Sim, how are you getting on tonight?
Yeah, all good, mate. I mean, it's been a struggle trying to get through Spurs in the last week or so. But yeah, I'm good.
Good. I'm just going to shimmy over here a little bit.
Yeah, apologies about that. There we go. There we go. That's all right for now. Look, it's been a damaging week for Tottenham. I think, no doubt about it. I think after the January transfer window, we had obviously the defeat to Chelsea, but everyone was still like, okay, it's only Chelsea. We're still in a good position. You know, we were, I think, 1 point behind top four with 2 games in hand. And you're thinking, we're in a very good position. We've got 2 new players through the door. We've got 4 players who weren't being used out the door. So I was looking forward to the second half of the season, but it's gone very wrong very, very quickly.
Yeah, and look, that's the point everyone is bringing up. We were, 7th or 6th? We were only a couple of points behind top 4 with so many games in hand, and we've caught up in terms of games played with the majority of those teams. We're now down in 8th, of course, behind Wolves, who beat us on Saturday. And look, we'll dive straight into the disaster that was. And Jack, you're back. Can we hear you?
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me this time?
Yeah,
sorry about that, boys.
Nice to have you, Jack.
And thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Despite David's kind of flu, you know, I would say hopefully I can add some element to this discussion, but looking forward to it. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. To answer the question that I was muted for, Maddie, I would say the Spurs side of myself is not doing very well. The other side of myself, outside of everything football, is doing all right.
I think David's on one of those things, you know, when you go on a holiday and you need a holiday after a holiday. He's come down to London.
The recovery of the holiday. The recovery holiday.
And now he's a bit worse for wear for it. So good on you, David.
I think he got rained on all day, so it makes sense. Yeah. You know, that's why you were told that when you were young.
Look, it certainly wasn't the best game to head over there for. And look, we'll start with the goals because they were just both filled from start to finish with individual errors. You know, as much as we all love Hugo Lloris and as much of an important cog as he is to this team, he has this performance in him once or twice a season. And unfortunately, it came at a critical stage. We needed a bounce back from that defeat against Southampton. And unfortunately, we couldn't do that. That first goal, look, Sam, I'll come to you on that one. We've all seen the images of Bentancur, Lucas, Son, Kane, whoever it was, standing on the edge of the box, just watching what was happening. But, I mean, the number one fault for that goal is Lloris palming that shot away from above Romero's head instead of just catching it. I
mean, to be honest, I put I put a lot of blame on Hugo because I don't think it was just one parry he made. It was 2. I think the parry from Neves for the first shot, he's got to be parrying it wide. There's no reason why he had to parry that straight down into the danger zone. It was like, it wasn't the best of shots by Ruben Neves. It was quite easy to deal with, and he should have parried that out wide. And the second parry from Dendonker's effort was really, really sloppy, and it was one where he probably could have caught. It was such a weak effort. I couldn't believe he parries that again straight to a Wolves player. But on the flip side, that's 2 shots in our penalty area where our defense fails to react. Our defenders are standing and watching. We have midfielders on the edge of the box not getting involved. Bentancur, I think he's made a good start to his life at Tottenham, but for that goal, I thought he was awful. I thought he was standing and watching. He only, when it fell to Jimenez, did he try and get a block in, and he tried to get involved. He was like just standing there, seeing what was going to happen, and he was kind of ball watching instead of actually getting involved. And Emerson, everyone, not Emerson, sorry, I was talking about the Southampton game, but I thought that the defenders were all at sea. They were not concentrating. That's a massive thing that Conte keeps talking about. He was talking about Sanchez can be a great defender if he just concentrates a bit more for 90 minutes, and then he comes out with that kind of showing in the first 20 minutes. And I said it to you, Matt, before. I think I've seen mannequins move more in the penalty area than I did see Tottenham defenders on Sunday. Sorry, and it was shambolic. And considering the way we've defended since Conte took over, it was really surprising that it was all at sea like it was for the first 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I'm just going to say, first of all, I've missed these super chats. I've missed this from Bobby. The £5 is beauty, panache, class, and intelligence. Proof that none of these are needed for a fantastic stream. Big love, lads. Big love. And Bobby, look, the fact that even those traits come into your mind looking at us, we'll take that as a compliment. Bobby, absolutely fantastic to see you in the live
Big
chat.
up, Bob Spur. Big up, Bob.
Absolutely legend. But look, yeah, I think, like you mentioned there, Sim, it is Lloris probably takes the bulk of the blame there. I was watching back the highlights before this stream because I like suffering. But there was moments when that first shot came in, Lloris parried it away. The second effort came in. A few of the players started to work their way back into the box, but when it looked as though it was a comfortable catch for Lloris, they kind of stopped. But as much as the Lloris's action affected them there, they shouldn't have been in the situation in the first place where Wolves have 2, 3, 4 players over in the box and they need to recover. Because they should have been, as soon as those Wolves players made that move, they need to be making that move. And it was just, all at sea is the best phrase that you can use for it. And
just quickly, we had 5 Wolves players up against 3 Tottenham defenders in the box. It's a joke. It was a joke.
Yeah, and they weren't even being marked. It wasn't like there were 3 being marked and 2 left over. They were all spare. They all had the freedom of North London. And then
you could say wherever it got parried, it was going to be tapped in almost to an extent.
Yeah,
pretty much. And look, it didn't get any better with the second goal. First of all, that dreadful pass from Lloris to Ben Davies. Then Ben Davies tries to hoop it off the pitch and doesn't get anything on it. I think even then, the fact that there was such a hole in our midfield that there was no one even to fight for that ball when it dropped to the Wolves player, and then everything that happened in the box. Ben, it's everything that Conte has gotten rid of our team since he's come in, and it's creeping back in already.
Yeah, I know, and I've kind of spoken about this in the last week or so in videos that we've done. And you've got all these players, the Ben Davises, the Davinson Sanchez's, Harry Winkses, all these players that all Spurs fans were like, wow, do we actually have players on our hands here? Can Conte actually get the best out of them? Because, everyone goes back to Victor Moses and stuff like that, saying, he can get the best out of average players. And maybe Spurs fans got a bit too carried away when they were on form. But as soon as the transfer window shuts, they all reverted back to type. And I think that kind of, since the transfer window's gone, it's taken away that safety net underneath. Well, it's put a safety net underneath their feet because, during the transfer window, Conte hadn't finished doing his assessment of the squad and stuff like that. So they weren't safe. And if they put in those performances before the transfer window or during the transfer window, it was very likely they would have been sold. But now we're stuck with these players for the remainder of the season, and Sanchez reverting back to type. He's been shocking in the past 2 or 3 games. Harry Winks as well. He's been shocking in the past 2 or 3 games. He can't seem to put a pass together. He gets completely overrun in the midfield every single game. Maybe it's not completely his fault. Maybe it's the system we're playing, and teams are getting wise to how we're playing as well in terms of that overloading the midfield. I think that the manager in the last game, the Wolves manager, insinuated to that. Hassan Hutel as well is talking about how we always sit back after goals. So like they're getting wise to what we're doing. So managers are getting wise to what Spurs are doing. We don't have any different options that we can put in there. That's the problem. So, I mean, I'm really worried going into the sea, especially. Let's not talk about this weekend, because this weekend, bloody hell.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm working, to be honest, while that game is on. And look, there's so much there that you touched on. I think we can discuss in more detail later on the show in terms of the mentality, the same players are type of the system. I think they're all really important things to talk about over the last week. But Jack, aside from those 2 goals, the individual errors did not stop. There was Winks at one stage gave the ball away, allowed Jimenez to have an effort from the edge of the box. At the start of the second half, Davinson Sanchez, I saw someone put a screenshot on it. When Sanchez took the first touch, how far away, I think it was Podence actually was from him before he then went in, able to get the ball back, fed it to Jimenez. And I think Davis got lucky that Jimenez didn't go down under the tackle and we got away with it. But is there can you think of any reason why these individual errors would keep happening after conceding 2 goals? Or is it simply down to the incompetence of the squad?
I just feel like the more and more I've thought about it, I feel like even the whole idea that, we're maybe surprised, maybe we're not surprised to be seeing this, but a lot of these players' forms that have had these individual errors, I've kind of thought about it as almost like a milk carton when it comes to like expiration of form. We know that their form is eventually going to expire, and there's going to be one match or so where it all just kind of capitulates, I feel like, for them. And I think we saw that with multiple players at once. With Harry Winks, we saw it with Ben Davies, we saw it with Davinson Sanchez, we saw it. You could point to each of them with really huge individual mistakes. With Harry Winks, it seems like the past 2 games in a row now, he seems to be giving the ball away, not in just normal kind of areas of the park, but areas where you're like, geez, this is a 3-on-1 situation for the opposition. With the likes of Ben Davies, it seems like anytime he's moved to a left back as a back four, he all of a sudden like just turns useless and just, kind of turns back to the old Ben Davies that we're used to. He's not really behaving as aggressively as I feel like we're used to as well. I feel like he's kind of shading away. I've called him kind of a social distance sort of kind of defender at times, where he just seems to always like to give his opposition player kind of 5 feet. And then to Sanchez, it feels like, I don't know, Sanchez, he's either Bambi on ice or he's the most, aggressive defender in the world. And it seems like, we're just getting more Bambi on ice these days. And I'll be honest, Maddie, it feels like, these players eventually was going to maybe come crumbling down. They're kind of good patch of form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I think we
I can't
all
explain individual mistakes because I feel like they just weren't really having that many individual mistakes until that game. So maybe it just all built up and built up and built up for it to, happen all and transpire all in one game.
Similar to last season under Mourinho, isn't it? First half of the season, we were very much defensive-wise, very few mistakes. And then as soon as they started to creep in, they never stopped. And
Eric Dyer is a good example of that last season. Eric Dyer was a rock until October. Then all of a sudden, we're questioning which center back will make a mistake or how many mistakes, each week. You're right, Ben. You're right, Sam.
The problem is it's come a lot quicker this time.
Yeah. And I also think that we're now in a situation where the player we're waiting to come back and the player we're hoping will be back soon is Eric Dyer. When last season he was the one, making these errors. And I was just going to say, we always fall into this trap of when a player has 3-4 good games that we're saying, oh, they're fantastic. We're saying, no, that's not true. But I think we're in a similar situation with Eric Dyer. And as good as he's been this season, I don't think he's done enough to put the faith in us that he won't turn around in 2 games' time and become the Eric Dyer of old, which is one of the biggest concerns that we have. One performance I want to talk about is Son. And he had one chance in the first half. It was a brilliant through ball by Rodrigo Bentancur. And Son, you would expect one touch onto his right foot, bang, goal. He slowed it down. He came in onto his left foot, kind of wasted that opportunity. And it was kind of just a sign of the performance that was to come from him. Sim, have you anything to say on Son, or was it just an off day for him, do you think?
Yeah, look, it wasn't his best day. I actually think he tried till the end to make stuff happen. I remember he was actually one of the ones. I think as soon as we moved to a back forward and moved Kulu, had brought Kulu on, had Davis a left back and moved Son out wide to the left. I actually think he became alive a bit, and I think he was giving Semedo a bit of a torrid time. I think he tried his hardest to make something happen, and unfortunately, it just wasn't his day. A few times he was whipping balls across the face of goal, and either Jose Sá was getting a touch on it, or a defender was blocking it just before Kane could get there. I think he was being dangerous, and the only thing I would say about Son is, apart from that one chance which he had a shot on goal, I don't remember too many other shots which he had. And we know when Son's at his most dangerous when he's having shots on goal. That's the crucial thing with Son. That's why I like him. And I would say in the last 20 minutes or so, when we brought on Bergwijn, he moved more central. We had Bergwijn on the left, Kulu on the right, Kane and Son down the centre. And at that point, we saw a lot less of him. But I think he played a nice through ball to Harry Kane as well, if I remember rightly, who should have scored. So I don't think Son was bad or anything, or was worse than anyone else. But it definitely wasn't his best day, that's for sure. But he scored last game. I think he was probably one of our more dangerous players this game. So I wouldn't be too worried about what I saw from him.
Yeah, I think Son, as much as we can say bad or good performances from the other players can't get us excited, bad performances from Son, we don't have to get worried. And Son's bad is, a lot better than a lot of players that we could have in that position otherwise. Sim, you mentioned Kulusevski, and Ben, I just want to ask, I think it was 27 minutes in when Conte called Kulusevski back from his warm-up and brought him on for Ryan Sessegnon. First of all, what do you think that means for Sessegnon, and what do you think that will do for his mentality? Because he played in the Conference League earlier this season and has come back in, not getting sent off. He's had a few kind of spells here and there where he hasn't really impressed too much. Now this, and then also, do you think that sub actually needed to be made that early in the game?
I think a change needed. The change was definitely needed. I mean, in hindsight, I probably would have taken off Davis and start Sessegnon at left back. But look, a change needed to be made. And unfortunately, in the situation that we're in, 2-0 down, Wolves were creating chance after chance. We just didn't look in the game in that first 20, 25 minutes. So something needed to be done. I'm happy that Conte did something. But I was a bit a bit annoyed that he took off Sessegnon, because I was excited to see what he could bring to the team. That's for sure. Seeing as Reguilon ain't exactly doing it at the moment. So I think that taking off Sessegnon did diminish our attacking threat a little bit from our left-hand side, because Davis didn't really influence anything going forward on that left-hand side for the remainder of the game. Sessegnon, he got taken off and he walked all the way around the back of the goal past the south stand, and he got what a reception he got from the fans. The whole of the south stand got up to their feet and clapped him off the pitch. And at 2-0 down, that was a hard thing to do, because there were not many happy Spurs fans in there. But he got the reception that he deserved, because he just got really unlucky being taken off at that moment. Look, like I said, I would have probably taken off Davis, and I feel really bad for Sessegnon getting taken off. What's it going to do to affect him? I think it's going to affect his. I think it will affect him, but he just needs to be professional, knuckle down, and get back to grips with things. But he has to work his way back into the team. And would I start him against Man City? Probably not. I'd probably start Reguilon on left back, but there'll be more opportunities for him, that's for sure.
Yeah, I really hope there is, because he's, he has come in at times and impressed, but it's just been tricky for him. I said a lot about some of the other younger players that are in the squad, that as good as they play when they do come in, certain players, it's hard to really throw them into the deep end in a team that needs results every single week. We need every player to be at their game to pick up results most of the time, because we don't have the quality to compete right up at where we need to be competing. And it's just a difficult situation for these players to actually try and get that consistent game time. But Jack,
I don't think it was anything to do with his. Sorry, I don't think it was anything to do with his level of performance why he got taken off. That's for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully Conte did make that clear to him as well. But Jack, one thing Conte made clear to us as fans, which I think we're all still questioning, is that it was one of our best performances under the Italian manager since he came in last November. I think I know your answer to this question, but do you agree with him?
I mean, I don't really know what he took, I think, kind of the blame for the loss on Wednesday, like, as well at one stage, I think, too. So he seems to have taken sort of like the blame, or tried to, find some sort of, weird nuance and things, maybe where there isn't, in the past kind of two sort of matches, and kind of feel bad for him. Maybe it's, maybe to an extent, it's the opposite of Mourinho, where Mourinho throws his players under the bus. It seems like Antonio is just throwing himself under the bus, or trying to just, I don't know, just try to draw attention away from kind of this sort of capitulation by Spurs. I don't know, Matty, straight and simple. I really don't know what he's trying to achieve, apart from maybe just distract the fans from maybe the actual severity of that those two defeats. And maybe he's just taking some sort of trend of, taking the blame for the defeats, which I feel like he shouldn't need to do. And why I've said before, I feel like Antonio Conte, whatever he's being paid, it's probably not enough sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. I mean, if he does think it was one of the best performances, I'd be worried about what he's saying. And let's do more of that. Let's really not do more of that.
It's a tough question. I mean, I don't know if anybody agrees, but like, I feel like it is just used as some sort of distraction or something like that. Maybe just used as some sort of non-answer or no answer.
I mean, he doesn't have to say it was the best performance since he's come in. Just given an answer, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Why? I think it's probably more to distraction than anything. What I would say is, Wolves are a very good defensive side, and in the hour since we made the sub when Kulu came on, I thought there were a few times we did open them up, and I think we pretty much, apart from that one time Sanchez gave the ball away, we did keep them at bay. But so you could say we were dominant for that last hour if you're nitpicking. But I mean, if you're going to go on the counter side, Wolves are 2-0 up and they're going to sit back, and obviously you're going to dominate once they're 2-0 up. So I think it's more of a distraction thing, but I'm only trying to give the other side to it.
And in terms of best performance, like, obviously it's not, but as much as people want to rag on this performance, it was a better performance than it was against Southampton. Because Southampton, we were dominated for 90 minutes. At least in this game, yes, fine, it was game over after 20, 25 minutes. But after that period, I actually thought we did grow into the game.
We had better spells. Yeah,
we're probably unlucky not to get a goal at some point. We probably should have got a goal, but I wouldn't say we left that we were leaving the pitch thinking, oh, how do we lose? We definitely I think we all understood that we probably deserved to lose the game.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think we were probably unlucky not to get at least one goal from the chances we got.
Tough question.
We've a super chat there from Moondog who says, as soon as I saw that lineup, my heart sunk. And look, as you said there, Ben, the game was over after 20, 25 minutes. Whenever Wolves got that second goal, even after that, they continued pressing. But after that second goal, I think we knew the game was over there. And do you think it was because of the changes that were made in that lineup? Because we've come to kind of expect the same core of a team. You know, Reguilon at left back, for example, is something that we've expected to see. As David says there in the chat as well, Winks instead of Højbjerg. Do you think the changes in that lineup led to that lack of cohesion, lack of chemistry, and lack of anything positive, I suppose, in that first 20 minutes, or is it deeper than that?
No, I think it's deeper than that. I mean, I'm not really sure what it is. I can't really put my finger on it because, you know, you're looking at performances against Brighton, against Leicester, really good performances in both of these games, and you're thinking, all right, you know, we're on a bit of an upward curve now, and it's looking good. We can really kick on from here. And these two games, they really knocked me for six because I thought, you know, we would really go into these games with a confident attitude, with a positive mentality, and really take the game to both Southampton and Wolves. And I was expecting 6 points from these games. Maybe that's my Tottenham delusion coming into my head, but I really was expecting 6 points on the back of those two performances. And I thought that the team were together. I thought Antonio Conte had got these mistakes out of these players. And not only that, but I was arguing with Arsenal fans being like, yeah, Antonio's got these mistakes out of these players. Sanchez is turning a corner. Winks is turning a corner. Davis is turning a corner. When am I going to learn my lesson? When? I'm never going to learn my lesson, bloody hell, but it is what it is. I don't think it was a personal issue. I think it's something deep ingrained in this squad. It really is. And Conte's got his work cut out for him big time. Big time.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think any of us are ever going to lose that delusion. I mean, look, if we didn't have hope, I don't think we'd be doing very well as Spurs fans. But I mean, I was the exact same. I tweeted it out last Wednesday morning. You know how excited I was. I was watching the clock the whole day. You know, waiting for that lineup announcement for the Southampton game, waiting for kickoff because that buzz was back. You know, that feeling of actually looking forward to watching Tottenham and like expecting a win. To be honest, going into that game. And Jack, the main thing that changed was the mentality. I mean, look at that game against Leicester last month, where we scored 2 goals after the 95th minute to turn around a 2-1 defeat to a 3-2 victory. And then look at that capitulation against Southampton and the absolutely dreadful start against Wolves. It's chalk and cheese, and it's really difficult to actually fully process that is the same team. That is, for the bulk of it, the same players. Do you think, as Ben mentioned earlier, it is simply with that transfer window closed, these players feel a little bit safer in that team?
Jeez, I really, that theory is always the scariest for me when it comes to certain players, that they just turn it on all of a sudden, you know, for 1 month, you know, in between, you know, the entire season. It's scary to think about. But what I would say, what's actually more concerning is some players that seem to maybe like always seem to have that little manager bounce or really seem to, you know, be trying under Conte, or maybe the players that we were talking about that are making those individual mistakes that you asked me earlier, kind of, Matt, with Harry Winks. It felt like Harry Winks was like imperious. It felt like under Antonio Conte at first, especially with his first even like little sub sort of debut. He was running things with the Liverpool match, you know, was one of the best players, if not close to the man of the match. And then other spells as well. He looked like somebody that was, you know, really kind of, you know, coming maybe into the Harry Winks that maybe we thought was in there under Antonio Conte. And now I feel like, and he was getting stuck in, he was doing all these things that we weren't really used to with Harry Winks. He was making pressures. He was kind of, you know, bossing players around. It seemed like he had this more of this, like his shoulders just seemed to be, you know, maybe not so tight. He just seemed to have a bit more of a confidence and an air about him. And then now in the last 2 games, I feel like you can't say that anymore. And I don't really know what happened. Because like you said, Maddie, felt like we were rolling into this, you know, absolutely high spirits, absolutely feeling like we were, you know, rolling on a high, absolutely flying, and all of a sudden just comes crashing down when you least kind of expect it. And maybe that is what is the strangest thing about being a Spurs fan. Maybe that's what the strangest thing about the squad is that they do that to you. But a lot of these players were honestly playing imperious under Conte and we're giving so much at first, and now it seems like they're not even working very hard anymore. It seems like they're not even giving their best really anymore, and it's a bit strange because you thought that they would kind of take advantage of this, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th chance or 5th life that they've been given, you know, now under Antonio Conte as well.
When it comes to Harry Winks, has his best performances not been in the three midfield? Is that when he's not really played well?
I think we were going to get to that later, and I was wondering about that. But this is the thing.
Leicester, I thought he played really well away, and he was in the three midfield in that game as well. So maybe that's something. I think in a 2, I think maybe he struggles a bit to cover a lot of ground and to really and off the ball he struggles to pressure. Sorry,
he needs the protection in the middle.
Yeah. That's the thing. And also maybe not just protection, maybe he just needs more options around him as well, to quick passes, quick lays off. And whereas when he's tasked of getting the ball to the front 3, maybe that's like a bit more difficult than getting it to another centre mid, if you know what I mean, and keeping possession. Maybe that's what he's better at.
It's probably kind of like Ben Davies, where he needs that unique sort of position. He needs to play like he plays one particular unique role, like nuanced roles, super well. Ben Davies, the left-sided center back. Harry Winks, like the deep-lying playmaker of a midfield 3, not a midfield 2, but a midfield 3. So maybe they're super niche sort of players when they play well. Sorry, Ben.
It's like that saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's like, this is well beyond twice now, by the way, with all these players. I mean, we just got to hang our heads in shame for keep believing in these players, to be honest.
Yeah, but we'll be back here in 2 months' time when we win a couple of games, saying that they're the best in the world again. I want to talk about that. I want to talk a bit more about the system and some words that Conte said as well. Just got a few super chats to get through. Bobster TV says, "What's with the excuse brigade? With the other teams around us dropping points, we shouldn't be afraid to demand top 4. It's imperative for the summer." And I said that the whole way through the transfer window as well. You know, we were building and preparing for a big summer window, but we can only really make that count if we have the players now to get us into the Champions League, to attract bigger players. We've Paul Markey as well says, if we want to progress, we have to offload 40 Winks to a team at his level, i.e. lowest Sunday League standard. Maybe a little bit harsh, but I agree that he probably does need to go. We've Moondog as well says, 50 years I've been supporting my club, and apart from the 70s relegation side, I have never felt so dejected. And look, on that point, I'm not going to claim I know anything about the feeling of watching a relegation side, but I think the worst thing with us now is that it's up and down and up and down. It's a roller coaster. And we're getting to that stage where when we get to those good times, every time we get there, there's more and more Spurs fans that just can't buy into it. And they're being proven right, which is even worse. But look, on the point of Winks, on the point of midfield, there's been a massive debate. Should we play a 3-4-3? Should we play a 3-5-2? And of course, the midfield man that we brought in over the January window was Rodrigo Bentancur, and Antonio Conte has said he suits a 2-man midfield better. You know, he has played in a 3 at Juventus and with the Uruguayan national team, but he sees him playing in a 2. He prefers to play in that midfield too. Sim, are we asking for trouble by doing that? Do you think we need an extra man in midfield, or is it all hands on deck trusting Conte?
Well, the thing is, under Conte, our best performances have been with the 3-5-2. That's been our most impressive performances. Liverpool at home, as I said, Leicester away. Those 2 games are probably the best games we've had. We have had good games, the 3-4-3. We played Palace at home. We won 3-0, but they were down to 10 men for a lot of that game. I think against the likes of Norwich and Brentford, we played 3-4-3. So you can get away with it against those kind of teams. That was a 3, I think. That was 3-4-3. So Brighton, that was also a pretty good performance. But I think the really impressive performances have been with 3-5-2. The only problem is now is, first of all, the dealings that we've done in January are pretty much leading to us to play a 3-4-3, because we've gotten rid. I said in January that I believe the best talent we have is in the center of the park. So I would play a 3-5-2, because we had, although they weren't, you could argue whether they're performing or not. We had Lo Celso, we had Ndombele, Højbjerg, Winks, and Dele Alli. We had quality of individuals in that central midfield. So I said the best formation for us to play is a 3-5-2, because I also didn't believe in Bergwijn and Lucas really that much up front to make that much of a difference. But now, the way our squad is set up, we have 4 centre mids and we have 5 forward players. So if we're playing 3-5-2, you're leaving Bergwijn, Kulusevski, Lucas all on the bench, and that's a lot of quality you're leaving off the bench all of a sudden with the transfers we've made, and also because we only have 4 centre mids now, so we play 3 of them every game. Yeah, currently 3 with Skip out. We don't know when he's back. So So I think Conte is gearing up to play the 3-4-3 formation, and maybe that's something we have to stick with. The problem is, I feel like with the 3-4-3, we get too overrun in midfield. That's a massive problem, and I think Bruno Lager said it after the game. He said he knows Tottenham are going to play a 2 in the middle, and he put a 19-year-old kid, because he knew it didn't matter who it was. He just needed an extra centre mid in there to outnumber the Tottenham midfield, and they'll get a lot of joy, and they did, and they didn't. And it wasn't until we brought on Kulusevski and put him in the centre that we started getting a lot of joy. We started pressing Ruben Neves. We couldn't get near Ruben Neves for the first 25 minutes. After they went 2-0 up, I think they went 2-0 up on 18 minutes, and then we made the sub on 28 minutes. For that 10-minute period, they had 80% possession. 80. Imagine going 2-0 down and then giving up 80% of the ball for the next 10 minutes when you're supposed to react. At home, that was how much they were dominating. That's how much Ruben Neves was dictating the play during that period. So that shows the difficulty our centre mids, especially when Højbjerg is not on the pitch, to get anywhere near the opposition central midfielders and really assert themselves. When we have a 3, I think it's a lot easier for us to do that. The problem we do when we have a 3 is I feel like we rely very much on counter-attacks, even more so than 3-4-3. We struggle to it's not necessarily we struggle to have possession, but we struggle to have quality with that possession, because the 3 in the middle are not the most creative players. They're not the best quality players. And then obviously you're relying heavily on out wide, even more so than when you're playing 3-4-3, because if you're playing 3-5-2, then you've got Reguilon and Emerson out wide, and you don't have the other support of the what's going on? Oh, sorry. You want to read the super chat?
Sim, don't get distracted. Carry on, my friend.
You're mid-flow. You're mid-flow. You're mid-3-5-2 breakdown.
I was just saying, I think in the 3-5-2, you can rely even more heavily on the wing backs, because there's no other players out wide to support them. For example, when Emerson is in the 3-4-3 of Lucas, he can play a down the line ball to Lucas Moura and help support out wide. Whereas when we're in a 3-5-2, he won't have that. He's just going to be by himself, and whether he could dominate those wide areas is a big question. So I think both formations have their problems, unfortunately, because of the squad we have. It's not the perfect squad, so we're just it's give and take at the moment.
I think the most concerning thing that you've mentioned there is with how much Ruben Neves controlled that game in that first half on Saturday, and then on Sunday, sorry, and then you're looking back at the game against Southampton, the 2 goals that they got it to turn around. It was James Ward-Prowse who was able to pull the strings for the 2 of those. And you're going into these games, and with all due respect to Southampton and Wolves, if you nullify the threat of Ward-Prowse, if you nullify the amount of effect that Ruben Neves can have on the game, you immediately double your chances in beating these teams. And that's not a criticism of the rest of their players. It's, if anything, praising those 2 and the abilities they have and the talent that they have and how important they are to those sides. And I don't know if it comes down to a coaching issue or if it is simply the players just lacking that attention to detail or lacking that ability to follow the instructions given. But the very fact that we've dropped 4 or 6 points because we have allowed these pivotal players for opposition teams to get into areas to hurt us is massively, massively concerning. And it was Cody Mack, another absolute legend, who put it up on Twitter, the pictures of the last 4 goals we've conceded. And every single one of them, the dangerous play, the sequence started from that inside right channel with balls into the box from there. And the first 2 you can say against Southampton, it was the dealing at the back post by Sanchez and Royale. And against Wolves, it wasn't really the same because they weren't balls into the back post. But Ben, do you think if we had an extra, is it as simple as having an extra man in midfield gives us more options to cut out the threat in those spaces, or do we need to start looking at the likes of Son, Lucas Bergwijn, whoever it is in the wing positions to get back and track and be the people to kind of protect that back four a bit better?
Look, I think there's many ways you can look at it, but I think everyone needs to do better as a team, defending for the team. I do think there does need a three in midfield in there, definitely. But at the end of the day, we don't have the squad to do it consistently. We just don't. With Skip out, not knowing when he's going to come back, yeah, we can play Winks, Højbjerg, and who am I thinking of?
Bentancur.
Yeah, that's it, Bentancur. We can play
Winks in the Premier League, Ben. Come on.
Winks, Højbjerg, and Bentancur. But one injury there, then we're down to have to play 3-4-3 again. Unless you can play Kulusevski in there, that he because I believe he can do the defensive work and go forward as well. So maybe Kulusevski could be an option in there as well. But in terms of the way the team are defending, everyone needs to do more from top to bottom, to be honest. I think the midfield definitely need to do more. The strikers need to come back a bit more. And I think the fullbacks massively need to do more, in my opinion.
And I think you've got to remember, so go on, just quickly, you've got to remember when he was Inter, his formation was 3-5-2. That was his main formation. And when he was at Chelsea, his main formation was 3-4-3. But you got to remember when he was at Chelsea, one of those centre mids in a 3-4-3 was N'Golo Kante. And he's pretty much two players when they went off the ball, let's be honest. So when you have a Kante in there, someone who can cover as much ground as him during 90 minutes, maybe you can play a two in the middle and he can cover all that ground. And it's almost like having three there almost because he's so good at it. But maybe we just don't have the players like that. We definitely don't.
Yeah, look, Will says here in the chat, isn't a three-man midfield? By the way, he's been a member for 17 months. Unreal.
Come on.
Wow.
He says, isn't a three-man midfield essential in order to have a chance at even coming close to covering City's mid-three in their 4-3-3, 2 versus 3 against City suicide? And Jack, do you think it comes down to a simple, depending on who we're playing? Because as Sim mentioned, we played a three in midfield against Liverpool. We played it against Leicester as well. Do you think when we're coming up against these better teams, or not better than us, but better in terms of the general quality within the league, do you think when we're playing better teams, we play more in midfield? Or do you think we should have our own rigid system that we can stick to and learn to progress in?
It did feel like originally we were answering that. Like we said, 3-4-3 against teams that, will sit back against us. Makes more sense to do it that way. Whereas 3-5-2 against teams that we know will probably kind of dominate us a bit. And when we do need to kind of counterattack and be defensively solid, we go 3-5-2. It feels like now, fast forward maybe 2 or 3 months now, it feels like we're all of a sudden kind of using maybe 3-4-3 a bit more. And we're kind of thinking to ourselves, maybe with that, maybe three-man midfield, we could actually, deal with, teams that, probably would kind of hurt us a bit more, a bit better. But I feel like games like Southampton and Wolves, I didn't really think that would probably be the, caliber of teams that we would get really so overrun with the 3-4-3. And Man City, I feel like, to Will's super chat, is like just a whole nother beast. I feel like with them, they have such a fluid system where everybody's kind of interchanging positions. Everybody's kind of making these various types of runs that you normally don't see. Everybody's just playing all over the pitch and just playing that fluid sort of kind of total football. I feel like probably maybe 3 players in the midfield is best to probably track all those different kinds of runs, and perhaps also just to maybe shore up maybe the top of the 18 a bit more, because it seems like what you were saying earlier, Maddie, with kind of the same delivery areas that seem to be happening. Perhaps 3 men in the midfield, you can kind of shore up more of that kind of top of the 18 sort of kind of real estate, so they don't really hurt us from those sort of areas. But I don't know, the 3-man midfield, it felt like originally we were thinking that was the best formation for tougher teams. And now it's starting to feel like maybe that is just the formation we should go ahead with. But then I would echo with what Ben said earlier, which is, do we really have the squad depth for the 3-5-2 every single game?
Yeah, I'm going to end this part of the podcast on a very negative note and say, and look, it's the topic I think that we've discussed is exactly how it needed to be discussed. But we've just played Wolves and Southampton. We're talking about our system, and all we could think of was defensive frailties and where we need to improve defensively. Yet we haven't even really gone into how we can improve going forward in our attacking sense. We're actually in this position where we're talking defensively how we need it to be better against Wolves and Southampton. I think that in itself is a concern. And then moving from that onto the fact that we go to the Etihad on Saturday. We've all seen the stat that Antonio Conte has now lost 3 consecutive league games for the first time since his very short stint at Atalanta in 2009. I would follow that up and say that Tottenham haven't lost 4 league games in a row since 2004. So I think we're coming very, very close to some very dangerous territory in records that we really, really don't want to break. I'm going to ask, is there any of you who gives us a chance?
Against City?
Against City.
I mean, you'd be crazy if you gave us a chance. But look,
Pokemon factor, maybe.
We already beaten them once this season.
Yeah.
Let's go. Come on.
And the Nuno,
League as
exactly.
well.
If Nuno can beat them, why can't Conte? But look, it's all about we have to play the perfect game, and then maybe we can scrape a draw if we play the perfect game. Literally, that's where we are. We have to make no mistakes. We have to make sure that when we do counter, because I do think that we are going to play 3-5-2 on the weekend. But when we do counter, I think we will look. Son has a great record against City. He knows how to hurt them. If we do counter them, we have to be clinical, and we have to be absolutely perfect and organized at the back. And if that happens, maybe we can scrape a draw out of it, scrape a result. But the way we're going at the moment, with confidence so low, do I expect us to have that kind of reaction going into the weekend? It's going to be very, very hard to see that. And if we do lose on the weekend, and Man United win, all of a sudden the table looks really bad, like really bad.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at it here. We're, of course, currently sat 8th. We're now back in the negative goal difference with -1, but we're 7 points behind Manchester United in 4th. Now we have 3 games in hand on them. We're 5 points behind West Ham, still 3 games in hand on them. So look, I suppose what we're saying in terms of having played those games in hand, maybe it's not as bad, but we are 3 points behind Arsenal with the same amount of goals games played, and 1 point behind Wolves with 1 game in hand there. It is the positivity we had in terms of being able to build up those game in hands is quickly fading. But Ben, do you think, let's say we get 3 points against Man City on Saturday, which, as we know, is really far-fetched. Do you think that changes anything in terms of the way we're going into the rest of the season, with the mentality of us as a fan base, the mentality of what the players expect them to achieve? I mean, this is coming off the back of Antonio Conte saying that we only really have a 1% chance of getting into that top 4 of the season.
Yeah, whatever anyone wants to say, we are still in there in the top 4 race. And even if we lose this weekend, which we're most likely going to lose, there's going to be lots of twists and turns from now until the end of the season. When you look at the teams that are already in the top 4 race, Man United, I know they won last night, but they're not exactly on the most consistent run of form. They're dropping points every other week at the moment. Arsenal as well, they're not exactly on the best run of form. They won their last game against Wolves, but you know, that was the first game they've won in this calendar year, I believe. They haven't. They scored before that game. They only scored 1 goal in 2022. Wolves, you know, they're there as well. You know, a bad result with them can happen at any time. West Ham, they're not playing well at the moment, albeit they are getting a few results here and there. So I think it's a well open race. Do I think we're going to get it? No. But in terms of the way the fans will think, if we can get a result against City, of course, there'll be a lot of much more positive atmosphere around the space. Whether it'll be false hope or not, I don't know. Well, probably I do know, because it probably will be a bit of false hope. But I think that it'll definitely bring some more confidence to the team and to the fan base. But at the back of everyone's mind, we'll all just be waiting for that next screw up, won't we?
We will, as we always are. Jack, how would you line up in this game against City?
What's really tough is that they just dismantled a 3-5-2 or a back 5 team, and they've dismantled a few, you know, this season, and like really have actually almost thrived at coming up against these kind of back 3, back 5 sort of systems. Everything looks so easy right now for Man City. That's probably the scariest thing about them. I've yet to maybe recall like a game for them that really has been like difficult for them, maybe apart from like the Brentford game at one stage. The last
apart
team
from when they came to the Tottenham stadium.
I mean, to a degree, I mean, that's how little they've lost this season. I mean, you can only, you know, you have to really scour, you know, to find them. I think Leipzig were another team that gave them a tough game, but that was a game that didn't even matter. I think a 3-5-2 makes the most sense. If you could do Skip, Bentancur, and Højbjerg, would that help you out defensively? Sure. Does that help us maybe get out of our own half? That's I'm a bit worried about, because we need also, you know, players to be able to help us get out of our own half. You know, we can't just pass our way sometimes out of that press. You just need someone that you can release something towards, and then they can just drive you up the pitch. Last time when we won, that was kind of Lucas and Stevie B, actually, to a degree. Stevie would pick it up in a space and then just drive it up the field. Lucas would pick it up in a space and then just drive it up the field. You kind of 3-5-2. I think maybe you limit the potential of having players that can really help you progress the ball up the pitch. But I don't know. I think I would go for a 3-5-2, but I would say Man City have dismantled that formation plenty of times before, but it seems almost suicide to do 2-man in the midfield after what we've seen recently against teams like Wolves and Southampton. My only last thing I would say, Matty, is I do feel like the way we beat Man City last time was having those 2 ball carriers of Lucas and Stevie B. So we'll see how it goes this time.
Yeah, I think we need a lot of luck and a lot of things to go in our favour. I'm just looking here at the Portuguese league table. Sporting Lisbon conceded 15 goals in the league all season. They conceded a third of that amount last night at home to Manchester City. I saw a lot of praise for their manager Felipe Amorim as well. But City, just as they always seem to be at this stage of the season, in the latter half, are on absolutely flying form. Raheem Sterling moved into their top 10 scorers of all time. Phil Foden just hit 150 appearances. Bernardo Silva, after a little bit of a blip in a wonderful season, got his hat-trick. It's a terrifying prospect. It really is. And I'm struggling to come up with any sort of positivity and anything good to offer.
They don't have Harry Kane. That's positive.
There we go. That's it. That's the only positive you're getting off this podcast tonight. No, but it is going to be quite terrifying, and I'm sorry to have to do this, but we're going to go around and get score predictions for this one. Sim, how much do City beat us by?
I can't see us not conceding at least 2, but most probably 3.
2. I was like, all right, you're being generous to us a bit.
I'm going to go... we're going to score? Maybe they'll give us something to cheer about. I'm going to go 3-1.
3-1. Look, if we score, I'll be delighted. Everyone as well, do make sure to get your predictions in the live chat. Ben, what are you going for?
All right, that'll be enough for people today. Thank you very much. I'm going to go... Jesus, man. I'm going to go 4-1 City.
4-1. I'm liking this that we're going to score. I'm happy with that.
We're getting a goal.
Jack.
Maybe just to give it outside the box sort of. I feel like 1-0 maybe, and then 1-1 is equalized. Maybe similar to what they did maybe perhaps against Arsenal to a degree. Maybe they get a late minute sort of equalizer against us. We outplay them. I don't know, but what I can hope for is 1-0. What I'm kind of really thinking about is that 4-1. Ben, that really does sound like what will happen.
The problem is that if Man City score early this weekend, God, I fear the worst. Because if they score early, our heads are going to drop. And when our heads drop, we make countless amount of mistakes.
It's not really like they let off too when they score either.
Exactly,
City, they almost really turn up the
I
gas.
I do think like we will probably approach the game similarly to how we did against Liverpool. Like, we know City throw a lot of caution to the wind, and we're going to try and exploit that space like we did. So I reckon we will have a few chances, but it's whether we can keep them out at the back, and whether we're clinical enough. Because I do think there will be some opportunities for us if we play similar to how we did against Liverpool, but they're so good going forward. It's just we can't withstand that. I don't think.
I think the amount of goals that City score is actually very heavily dependent on Eric Dyer playing. And if Eric Dyer plays, it does make our defence that much stronger. So I think if Eric Dyer plays, I think we can limit them to maybe 2 or 3. But if Eric Dyer is not playing this weekend, it's 4 or more.
That's a terrifying prospect.
Because he could give us that release ball every once in a while too. Like, he could play the pass. That no
please
one else can.
Don't play Doherty left wing back. I'm pring. I'm just praying. Don't play Doherty left.
I think if they do, the viewing numbers for that will be... Yeah. I'm just looking here at the live chat trying to get score predictions. I see Jacob River says Matt looks shirtless in that pink. I can promise you I will never subject any of you to that. Ken the Longshot says 3-0. Ricky goes 1-1. My man Sonny will score. A bit of positivity. Adrian says 3-2 to Spurs. Leon says 2-1 either way. Michael 4-1 City. Asin 3-2 City. Will says 3-2 City as well. A couple of 1-1s, a couple of 2-2s. A lot of people saying Sonny will score, which I think is fair. We've Boise says Man City 0, Tottenham 5. If that happens, I'll come back here, Boise, and I will thank you for that one. I'm going to go with I'm going to go 3-0 to Man City. I don't think we're going to score. If it's anything like that game against Wolves, no creativity. Same against Southampton for the most part. Not being able to find that final ball. I think City have way too much at the back to deal with that.
Yeah, I think for me, I think going forward, even recently, I don't think we've been too bad. Even against Southampton and against Wolves, I think chance creation and like getting into positions and being able to put defenses under pressure and creating chances, I think we've still been okay. Like I think like the attacking part's been all right, but yeah, defensively we've been all over the place. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not too worried about our ability to create chances.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm thinking in terms of taking the chances, it's where we've been horrific. I mean, that Reguilon one against Forster. I know he's a left back. You're not going to expect him to put that away, but those are the type of ones that we need to take. And especially if you're up against a Man City, if you get any half chance like that, you need to put it in the back of the net. And it just hasn't been happening for us. Still some more positivity in the live chat. Justin says 1-0 Spurs. So does Ahan, and Edward says 2-1. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.
Moondog as well says, after all the crap I said, I reckon 2-1 to us. And that's it. That's the Spurs mentality. I don't know where it comes from, and I don't know why it keeps happening, but that positivity will always be there. But look,
I guarantee you, by the time Friday comes along, I'll be like, maybe we can do something.
You never know.
We'll beat City, then lose to Burnley. That's the Tottenham way.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. You see Pep throw one curveball in the City lineup, we'll think we're winning 4-0. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys, as always. Fantastic having the chat with you. Jack, do you want to tell us about Flat Cap Euro Talk?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Really, it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. Quickly, Flat Cap Euro Talk, so close to 1,000, about like 30 something odd away. Really would appreciate doing everything from figuring out how to fix Spurs to just kind of talking about general European football, and Champions League is back. So there's no better time to head on over to the channel. Really do thank you guys, though, for letting me join and fill in for David. It's been a blast.
Big up, Jack. Great to have you.
Always a pleasure having you on. We're going to do what we're going to do is I'm going to really hijack this more than just hosting. Jack's channel is linked in the title. It'll say Flat Cap Euro Talk in blue text. If you click that, it'll bring you straight to his channel. Hit that subscribe button, and we're going to get him to 1K before this stream ends. I can't see how many are in here, but I'm sure there's a good few hundred. Head over there and let's get him to 300 before the stream ends. I'm going to cheekily plug my Twitter at Matt Hayes THFC. I'm doing an article on the moment for the Opta Analyst about Rodrigo Bentancur and what he brings to the top midfield, that hopefully will be published in the next day or two. So go over and check me out on Twitter and my YouTube channel as well, if you want to support me there. But the main thing you need to do is subscribe to this incredible channel. Again, Ben and Sim, thank you so much for allowing me to run things and to host the show. It's always an absolute honor coming on the channel. Tell people what I'm sure everyone knows why, but tell them why they need to subscribe to WeAreTottenhamTV.
You got to subscribe to WeAreTottenhamTV because it's the most regular and it's the home for all Spurs fans. You know, everyone's got their own channels as well, but this is where we all get together and we all moan and all together. We're all together here, so it's the hub of the family. So everyone get over and subscribe to WeAreTottenhamTV.
Mothership.
You heard the man.
It really is. You know, every single Spurs channel has come out of this channel in some way or another. They are the godfathers of Spurs YouTube. Absolutely incredible stuff. But look, for everyone who has tuned in, everyone who's watched, everyone who's hit that like button, from me, from Ben, from Sim, and from Jack, thank you so much for watching. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
One last thing, pray for me and Simeon. We're going to the Etihad this weekend, so come on, you Spurs. See you later, guys.